All right, what is up, my friends? Welcome to the set review for Bloomburrow. Perhaps the most exciting Magic set in quite a while, honestly. Great flavor, great mechanics, a nice level of simplicity that we've been enjoying a lot so far. I'm going to be going over every card in the set, constructed and limited. We did white, we did blue, we did black. Those are all on the YouTube. Hit the buttons, like, comment, subscribe, support what I'm doing here. All right, if you like what I do, you want to see me do more of it, hit the button, support the content, all right, that you like. And we got our awards to give out. And we're rock and roll here. We got red to go here, and that's great. We're gonna remind you of all real fast about our sponsors though before we start. We got
search for the ultimate weapon.
Oh, shit. What do I do?
In the search for the ultimate weapon, knowledge is power. Introduce.
Hi, I'm Jim, and my content is brought to you by Anthros. Folks. You spend so much of your life sitting in chairs, all right? If you work from home, if you work in general, playing games, whatever it is, invest in yourself. Anthros chairs are absolutely phenomenal. They have the pelvis support you see back there on the little graphic. Basically, you kind of wedge your ass into it, and it forces you to sit upright. And you can lean too, though. So you can actually relax while also sitting properly, which is huge. Take care of yourself, fix your sit. Use promo code JIMDMTG for $200 off your order, and please use the link in the description or in the chat right now. Let me know I sent you. Invest in yourself, invest in your body. You're worth it. Fix your sit. Check out Anthros. All right, let's go red. Let's do our things. A Gate Assault is our first card here. 3 mana for a sorcery. Choose one. 4 damage to a creature. If it would die, exile it, or exile an artifact. Just a good rule spell. Good limited removal spell. I suppose if there's like a certain scenario where there was like, you know, a deck and standard with a good 4-toughness creature and a deck and standard with some good artifacts, this could maybe be a sideboard card for standard, but realistically, this is just a constructed card. I mean, a limited card. Good limited card, good removal spell. A lot worse as a sorcery than an instant, but it kills most things and does that pretty well, which is fine. So fine limited card. Up next is Alania's Pathmaker. Wow, read a lot of earlier awards here, right? Bombin Common, folks. 4 mana for a 4/2 Otter Wizard. When it ETBs, exile top card of your library. Till the end of your next turn, you may play that card. So, in recent years in limited, WotC has moved away from the removal spell being the best common to a lot of these kind of things, where it's just a solid 2-for-1 at common. Which is great. 4/2 creature is a good body. It battles well. It actually blocks a little better than it attacks. But still, exile the card. By turn 5, it should be very, very likely you'll be able to play the card that you reveal. Unlikely, you don't have enough mana or whatever else it might be too. So this is basically just a 4/2 for 4. Easy beat draw card. That's great, honestly. It's an honor for things to care about that. But for the most part, this is a great value card. Great value card. Play it. Get some value. Might end up being worse than the common removal spells, but going to be really, really important in your draft decks and the draft format in general. And that's it. Don't play it constructed or you will lose a lot. Artist Talent. The class is returned. 2 mana for a class. The base level ability is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Not really worth a card, honestly. Level it up for 3 mana for chapter 2. Non-creature spells cost 1 less to cast. Level it up again for 3 mana. If a source you control deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent opponent controls, deals that much damage plus 2. I think this card is terrible.
Still a piece of garbage.
One of the important things about these class cards is that you really want to get a decent amount of your value up front, right? So is 2 mana for an enchantment that says if you cast a non-creature spell, you may discard a card and draw a card worth it? No, not really. Not really at all, actually. That's just card disadvantage. Then we're at Then we're at 5 mana to make your spells cheaper. That's not very good. And then 8 mana to deal some more damage. That's not good either. So I think this card is just heinously bad. Unplayable in almost every aspect. There is some amount of potential comboing potential where the first trigger is unbounded. So you can keep casting spells, you can keep looping or whatever. But realistically, I think this card is just trash. So don't play this card, folks. Blacksmith's talent. We'll see if the Blacksmith is any better than the Artist is. Blacksmith, 1 red uncommon class. Base level is on ETBs, make a colorless equipment artifact token named Sword. With equipped creature gets +1/+1 and equipped 2. So base level is pretty bad. You know, usually a short sword equipment would cost 1 and equip for 1. This is obviously a red and equip for 2. But not the worst, but not very good. Then after level up to the level 2, being in combat your turn, you may attach equipment to a creature you control. So that's kind of cool, is that you get a discount on sword equip. So that's like, you know, kind of fine. And then level 3, during your turn, equipped creatures you control have double strike and haste. This card would have been awesome in Modern Horizons 3 with all the living weapons.
This weapon is live.
But how many equipped creatures are you likely to have in this set? Probably not that many, honestly. So another equipment card, those never really work. We're going to move on to our next card here. In Blooming Blast, to end it for an instant, you may gift a treasure if you want to kick your spell, basically. 2 damage to our creature. If the gift was promised, you may also deal 3 damage to that creature's controller. So we have a shock that could be a Searing Blaze. Unfortunately, it only deals 2. If this card dealt 3, it would be awesome. Lightning Strike for creatures, and then Searing Blaze for players if you give a treasure. Only dealing 2 damage to a creature is not enough to kill many of the creatures you want to kill, making this an extremely unreliable removal spell. That's an issue. And then giving your opponent treasure is also pretty bad too, right? You don't really want to do that very often. So, reminder about the gift mechanic. This is kind of like Kicker. You choose that you're going to gift as part of the cost of playing the spell, but the actual gift effect happens as part of resolution. If this were countered, it would not get a treasure. But yeah, good limited card because like it's a rule spell. But yeah, pretty iffy card. 2 damage ain't enough. Bramblebar Guard Captain. 4 mana for a 2/3 Mouse Soldier. Being in combat in your turn, target creature you control gets +X+0 to end of turn, where X is this card's power. It's kind of like a Battle Rattle Shaman. Obviously, you'd want ways to pump this thing to make this card good. But this card is just fine. You know, if you always pump it, reasonable, can push things through, pretty good on tokens. But realistically, 4 mana for a 2/3 is not so great. So overall, just an okay limited card, nothing more. Brazen Collector, 2 mana for a 2/1 first strike, good stats. Whenever it attacks, you add a red. Till end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So kind of a weird mana dork, right? So we have a good body, for limited especially. Attack with it, make an extra mana, play a 4-drop on turn 3. That's great. So this is a great limited card. And I would say an outside shot and constructed kind of card. Because if you're playing a mono red deck and you want to ramp, this can do that. And usually you can't do that. So pretty cool card. Body's just good enough. Kind of hard to block. Cool. Cool stuff. I like it. Byway Barterer. 3 mana for a 3/3 Raccoon Rogue with Menace. Whenever you expend 4, you may discard your hand, and if you do, draw 2 cards. What's expend mean? Expend means to spend your 4th total mana to cast spells, not abilities, in a turn. So think of that like the draw 2 mechanic, where it's whenever you draw your 2nd card, do this thing. If you've already drawn 2 cards this turn, won't work, right? But when you hit that threshold of spending exactly your 4th mana, you get an effect. So play this thing, next turn play a 4-drop, I'll have expended 4, discard your hand, draw 2. So obviously this card is made for very, very aggressive red decks, right? The goal is to play this card almost empty-handed, untap, play a 4-drop, discard nothing, draw 2 cards. Pretty cool. That being said, that isn't always necessarily easy to do. And it makes this card have kind of a nebulous, floor where like it might or might not work. And then otherwise you're getting a 3/3 Menace for 3, which is not super exciting. Spending 4 mana, in an aggro deck, because what you want with these sort of like discard your hand, draw 2 effects is to have no cards in your hand. And to do that, you need to play really cheap cards. But if you're playing really cheap cards, it's probably hard to spend 4 mana in one shot. So I think this card's kind of iffy. It's a great limited card. Don't get me wrong. The floor is certainly reasonable for limited. For constructed, I think this card's a little iffy. Just not really super excited about it overall. Conduct Electricity, 5 mana instant, 6 to a creature, 2 to a token. We literally just saw this card like a limited set ago. This is a filler level removal spell unlimited. Corsication Mage, maybe?
You're saying it wrong.
2 mana 4, 2/2. Otter Wizard has Offspring 2. Offspring means you can play kicker cost and get a copy of the creature. That's a 1/1, but has all the abilities. If you guess a non-creature spell, deal 1 damage to each opponent. So, kind of cool in that, like, playing it for 2 is very reasonable as a bear, and you get, like, half a Gutter Snipe effect. Or you could play it bigger later, which is kind of cool as well. That being said, it's not really doing that much damage, and then the body isn't that great either. I think this card is probably not really there or constructed. Unlimited, this card's great. I think often Unlimited, you're going to want to Offspring this card. But I think constructed-wise, this card isn't really good enough. But cool limited card for sure. Being an Otter is important for some tribal stuff and good stuff. Dragonhawk, Fate's Tempest, the Bird Dragon.
It's a trap!
I feel like my set reviews are like scripted at this point, basically, where if there's a 5 mana mythic rare dragon something that doesn't have haste or do big things, everyone loves it. It's not very good. I have to tell you all it's not good. This is my job, you know. Love my job. Love playing Magic. Part of my job is telling you all that the 5 mana mythic dragon isn't very good. 5 mana for a 5/5 flying. Sure. Whenever it ATBs or attacks, exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 4 or greater. You may play those cards until your next end step. Beginning of your next end step, it deals 2 damage to each opponent for each of those cards that are exiled. So, the problem here is that not only is this a 5 mana 5/5 dragon without haste, you also have to have a 4-power creature in play for this card to do literally anything.
Still a piece of garbage.
Is it a limited banger? Sure. Is it possibly playable? Sure. Is it exciting? I don't know. I'm sorry, it just got itself. I apologize. I'm an idiot. I misread the card. Didn't realize that. So that makes it better, obviously. A lot better than my initial thing. That still being said, 5/5 comes into play, shock your opponent. That's your next end steps. You must play the card this turn too. So basically, it's still what I said it is. It's a 5 mana 5/5. Must live to your next turn. Still pretty bad. So, whatever. Open it in limited. Crush your opponents. It's a windmill slam unlimited, obviously. But in constructed, this card is just almost a blank, I think. So, not really super excited about it. Moving on. Emberheart Challenger. This card's a banger. 2 mana for a 2/2. Haste Prowess. If you stop right there, the card's still pretty good. You know, how many 2/2 haste for 2 have we see play in Standard that have, you know, very mild other abilities? But it also has Valiant. This is the kind of heroic ability. Whenever this is targeted by a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, exile the top card of your library. Till end of turn, you may play that card. This card's awesome. Probably could have won Best in Show, honestly, as far as Mono Red goes. Mono Red's already playing Monstrous Rage anyway, and is already in the market for a 2/2 haste for 2 anyway. So having Prowess there is huge. And then if you want to build around it a little more and do some more Valiant things, this card can be insane. Almost like a Dark Confidant, you know, draw a card every turn for a Valiant deck. So this card is awesome. It's a banger. Possible play a Pioneer card. I think this card's incredible. And great. It's a little worse than limited actually, because like it's a little harder to use. You can't build your deck around it fully. But this is great. Definitely amazing card. So good. And also just really cool art. Again, just a cool little mouse. Love it. Festival of Embers. 5 mana for an enchantment. During your turn, you may cast instant and sorcery cards from your graveyard by paying 1 life, in addition to their costs. If a card or token, it's a weird thing to have on there, would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile instead, pay 2, and sacrifice this. Really weird card, right? We have sort of like a Yawgmoth Will effect, but it's very expensive and very clunky, and has this like 1 life tax on there too. So like it's even harder to combo. Typically cards like this are only good if you're comboing, and losing life while you're comboing isn't very good. I think this card is effectively unplayable. And we're going to go on to our next card, basically. Flame Cash Gecko. Banger. 2 mana for a 2/2. Lizard Warlock. So once again, this is a lizard, but it's also an outlaw. When it EDBs, if opponent lost life this turn, add a black and a red. Pay 2, discard a card, draw a card. So Just a little Burning Tree Shaman action, right? So playing an aggro deck, I play a 1-drop, I attack them. Turn 2, I attack them again. Play this thing, play another 2 drops, they go. That's awesome. So if there's any sort of black-red lizard aggro deck in Standard, this card's definitely in it. It's actually a little worse in Limited, where like it's harder to kind of like curve out and do crazy stuff. But the rummage effect is better, I guess. So pretty cool. And of course, you can always just spend the mana you get on the rummage if you're a little flooded or whatever. Card's great. It's a good card, good aggro card, good nuts and bolts kind of card. You can still play it in mono red also. I don't need to play it in Rakdos either, but card's great. Frilled Sparkshooter. 4 mana for a 3/3 with Menace and Reach. EDB's a counter on it if an opponent lost life this turn. Limited filler. You know, like, the failsafe here is absolutely terrible, and the upside is a 4/4/4, which is, like, obviously fine, but not very exciting. So yeah, limited filler. If you're playing a Rakdos aggro deck, you're doing a lot of damage, need a 4-drop, sure, but I would not be super happy to have this card in my deck. Harnesser of Storms. I actually first read that as Harasser of Storms, and I was like, that's badass. Yeah. But Harnesser of Storms, 3 mana for a 1/4 Otter Wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell or an Otter spell, you may exile the top card of your library. Till end of turn, you may play that card only once a turn. Card's great. Great limited card. You know, your blue-red deck should probably have a lot of Otters and non-creature spells in it. You ever draw 1 or 2 cards of us, you're super happy. Probably not good enough for Constructed. Although, honestly, like, for some sort of, like, mono-red mirror, this could be kind of cool. Just, like, play it, block with it, untap, kill a thing, exile a card. Kind of cool, but card's good, honestly. Good little card. Great limited card. Again, more awesome art. Heartfire Hero. 1 mana for a 1/1 Mouse Soldier. It's got Valiant. Whenever it becomes target of a spell or ability for the first time in a turn, put a counter on it. Then whenever it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. I mean, obviously, if you're Valianting super hard, this card's pretty sweet. You know, you can't do it more than once in a turn, which is a little rough. But it's a reasonable 1-drop, you know. Kind of wish I had haste, honestly, you know, for a little extra oomph. But card seems fine. Maybe a fringe player for Constructed. And then for limited, if you're doing the Valiant thing, seems reasonable. Hearthborn Battler. 2 mana for a 2/3 haste. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, Hearthfire Battler deals 2 damage to target opponent. This card is really good too. You know, like, the cool thing about this card is that it's a hate card for your opponent, and then a good card for you, whereas if you play your second spell, they take damage. If they play their second spell, they take damage, you know? So, we went on both sides. It beats, you know, 2 haste for 3 is fine enough. And yeah, I mean, card's pretty good. There are a lot of good mono red cards in this set. I don't know if this one will make the cut or not, but it is good. And then it's also just a fine, good limited card too, for sure. So, cool card. Another Lizard Outlaw, you know, so many of them. Hired Claw. Speaking of Lizard Outlaws, folks, wake up. All right, we got our big 1-drop in the set. Hired Claw is a 1 mana Lizard Mercenary 1/2. Whenever you attack with 1 or more lizards, it deals 1 damage to target opponent. So effectively has 2 power. Then 2 mana to put a +1/+1 counter on it. Only if an opponent lost life this turn and only once a turn. So, like, if you attack, you can activate it, which is a huge factor because these sort of, like, low power pingers run into blockers a lot, right? So they have a 2/2. I can't attack. That ability allows me to attack. And then also, this is a crime maker. This is an outlaw. This is a beatdown card. This is a lizard. All of those things matter, and what you're getting here for the cost is unbelievable. Yeah, so they play a Novice Spectre on turn one. Can't block it. It goes pump. You know, so this card's awesome. Probably the best 1-drop in the format. Maybe Sphere's better, but this card's insane. Really, really good. Great in mono red. If there's any sort of like lizard deck, this would be in there too, or some sort of mercenary crime deck. I don't know. Card's great. Good limited card too, obviously, because it can just grow every turn, which is awesome. But yeah, banger card. Hits really hard too. Hoarders Overflows next. Whenever for enchantment. Whenever it EDBs. Whenever you expend 4, put a stash counter on it. Pay 2, sack this, discard your hand, and draw for counters. So this thing can't expend 4 itself, but sees other things expend. And then, of course, it has a 1 counter to start. Kind of a weird card, honestly. It's like a payoff for expending, but like there aren't that many expend cards. So and you need to put a lot of counters to be happy with it. So I think this card is mostly unplayable trash. Candlespark Duo. We got a Lizard Otter. The mana for a 1/3. Taps to deal 1 damage to an opponent. Cast a non-creature, untap it. So this card will obviously play very, very well in blue-red decks. You're playing with your non-creature spells. It's also an Otter, which is very, very important for the common Otter cards, like the card draw spell. And then it can deal damage to your opponent, which is what the Lizard deck wants to do. So pretty cool card. These cards tend to play pretty well. And then third toughness is very important also. So good common. Good, kind of an archetype common, but will be good in the archetypes it's good in. Blue-red and black-red. Manifold Mouse. Mana for a 1/2 Mouse Soldier rare. Has Offspring 2. Beginning combat in your turn, target mouse you control gains your choice of Double Strike or Trample to end of turn. So effectively, this is a 1/2 Double Strike, right? Because it can choose itself. So effectively has 2 power. Pretty sweet card. You know, it's important to know that this targets your own stuff for all of your Valiant effects, which is kind of cool. The Offspring effect is good as well because a 1/1 is basically the same thing as this anyway. So good kicker effect, good on turn 2, good by itself, good with other things too. Good card. It was a Valiant deck in Standards, probably see play. Great limited card also. It's good. It's good stuff. Might of the Meek. Another really, really brave mouse. If I was a mouse personally, I would not attack a snake. Just saying. You know, but that's a really brave mouse. 1 mana instant. Target gets trampled on a turn. It also gets +1/+1/+0 on the turn if I control a mouse. And then draw a card. This card's obviously great. Obviously, this card is just going to be phenomenal in your heroic set with all the heroic mechanics. It's important to know that it does target. So if they were to kill the thing in response, you would not draw a card. So be careful with that a little bit. But card's great. You know, probably going to be one of the better red commons. Even in just like, or, you know, an aggro deck, just trample, draw cards, fine. But if you get the +1/+0, it's awesome. And if you Valiant, it's even better. Card's good. Honestly, and then Constructed, this card has a chance. If there's a Valiant deck in Constructed, this card will definitely be in it. Whether there is or not, that I don't really know. But Playful Shove. Huh!
Get off my plane.
Too much? Too much? We got 2 mana, deal 1, draw a card. It's kind of funny this card's like never been printed before. This is a great limited card. You know, remember Flick Coin was awesome. And then Constructed, it's just a little too little for too much, but good limited card, and just being mean to mice and stuff, you know, the usual. Quake Duskboar, 5 mana for a 5/5, reach, trample, haste. Charging monster store, eat your heart out, right? We got some reach on there too. Obviously a banger limited card. I'm really happy with the French vanilla cards in this set, because they're great. They're simple, you know. When I open a limited pack, I don't want to read 14,000 cards if it's a new pack. This is great. You know, a nice simple card, beats down, does what you expect it to do. Great. Great limited card. And then otherwise, not super excited for Constructed. Although, honestly, it's funny. I think this, I don't want to say it's a better Constructed card than the Mythic Dragon is, but it could be better in a lot of ways, honestly. So, cool. Rabid Gnaw. Those are some ridiculous teeth. They gotta get that checked out. All right, I don't know what's going on over here, but
I'm alive. Why am I alive?
2 mana for an instant. Creature you control gets +1/+0 on its turn. That deals damage equal to its power to a creature you don't control. This is a really weird card because usually its effect is always green, and usually it's not a +1/+0. Usually it's 2 mana instant bite, and this is a 2 mana instant +1/+0 bite in red, which is very, very peculiar. I don't know why this is in red. But the card's obviously an insane limited card. 2 mana instant bite's already great. The bonus is better as well. And on top of that, there's the Valiant synergies too. Banger limited card. Really, really good. Raccoon Rallier. 2 mana for a 2/2. Tap to give a thing haste. Limited filler. Nothing more. Reptilian Recruiter. 5 mana for a 4/2 trample. When it ETBs, choose our creature. That creature's power is 2 or less, or if you control another lizard, gain control of that creature on the turn, untap it, give it haste. So this is like your insane limited curve topper in your lizard aggro deck, where they're on the back foot, they play a big creature, you play this, steal it, and kill them. Similar to Zealous Conscripts. Constructed, not really a thing. Only takes creatures, whereas Conscripts other stuff too. But yeah, banger limited curve topper. This is gonna kill a lot of people. A lot of people. Roughshod duo. We got our mouse and a raccoon teaming up. 3 mana for a 3/2 trample. Whenever you expend 4, creature you control gets +1/+1 against trample on turn. Limited filler. It's fine. You know, play 5-drop, pump a thing. Cool. Body's not great. Just limited filler. It's fine. Sazakap's Brew. 2 mana for an instant. You may gift a fish if you want to. As additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card. Target player draws 2. If the gift was promise, a creature you control gets +2/+0 end of turn. So, the big thing here, I think, is not the +2/+0. It's a Valiant trigger. So if you want, you can Valiant trigger. This is a very, very weird card, though. Adding, you know, give your opponent a fish and a weird pump effect to the usual Tormenting Voice effect is really, really weird. Bizarre stuff. Important to note, this targets the player drawing the cards. So if you were to kick this and target a creature and they kill it in response, you will still draw the cards, which is important. Otherwise, that would be very, very sketchy. Season of the Bold. We got a 5 mana Season in red. This is our paw print card. Choose all your modes. 1 paw print, make a tap treasure. 2 paw prints, exile top 2 cards of your library till the end of your next turn. You can play them. And then 3 paw prints till the end of your next turn. Whenever you cast a spell, 2 damage up to 1 target creature. So, similar to the other seasons, just feels a little weak, even though it's very, very modal. Unlike the season that makes 5 tokens, you know, it's hard to think of what the base level is for this one. Like, what do you want to do with it usually? It can be like a draw 4 sort of. It can maybe kill your opponent with some damage, but this one seems pretty finicky and I'm not very excited about it. Steam Path Charger. It's mana for a Lizard Warlock 2/1. It's got Offspring 2. Whenever it dies, 1 damage target player. Great limited 2-drop, honestly. You know, we have this 2/1 for 2, which is fine with a little bit of extra upside. The Offspring effect is great because a 1 that dies and deals 1 is great also. Just good limited 2-drop. Obviously more inclined for a Lizard deck than anything else, but quite solid. Storm Spitter. 4 mana for a Otter Wizard. Haste 1/4. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a token that's a copy of Storm Splitter. Exile a token at the beginning of the next end step. So we have Otter Storm here, folks. Otter Storm. Kind of like a preemptive Grape Shot, right? You play this guy, and then next turn start casting spells. It splits 2, then 4, then 8, etc. Obviously a really fun card. I don't think it's particularly good because you can't really play it the turn you're going off. It needs to be in play when you start casting spells, and 4 mana is a lot. So a lot of his cards like play it, say go, hope it lives, untap, try and kill them. That being said, it's a cool card, really fun card for sure, and then a really cool limited card too. Limits are where this card's going to shine the most, I think. But yeah, pretty cool. Sunpine Links. Y'all say Price of Progress? Folks, holy shit. Alright. 4 mana rare, 5/4. Players can't gain life, damage can be prevented. Those are nice, but more as rider text than the main text. The main text is Price of Progress, halved. When this enters, it deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. Think about your average game of Constructed Magic the Gathering. Typically, each player has between 3 and 5 non-basics in play. As the game goes on, there's even more. Alright? So what we have here is a 5/4 for 4. The body's fine. It's going to ETB and deal 4 or 5 damage, maybe more, as the game goes on. And on top of that, it also has the can't gain life and can't prevent damage clause. This card's great. This is your curve topper for mono red decks. This is what Furnace Punisher always wanted to be, basically. And then if you have some way to recur it or blink it or whatever, that'd be insane too. It's also an elemental, which matters a bit too. This is a banger, folks. I don't know what else to say. You're going to die a lot to this card. Although important to note that it is double-sided. So in mono red, it's nothing at all. You could still play this in different decks or red green decks or whatever. But beware, it's going to damage you. Also, card's a banger though. Just an absolute banger. In limited, this card is obviously a lot worse. But yeah, woo! And then the sizing is just right. That 4th toughness is very important. And the 5th power is attacking the shoulder also. Although shoulder can't gain life anyway, so, you know, but yeah, card's great. Absolute banger. Best in show for red is Sunpine Links. The rare card, better constructed than limited. Taking out the trash. 2 mana instant. Deal 3, creature planeswalker. If you control a raccoon, you may loot. Obviously a little worse than like your Fire Prophecy kind of cards. But a great spell here. It's obviously a great removal spell. Limited card, top pick and limited. Playable and constructed if you're playing raccoons, although there already is the, not Fire Prophecy, the one that gets planeswalkers also available in the format. So like, I think might not find a home. Volcanic Spite, thank you. But yeah, great limited card. Possible constructed cards. Also, it puts a card in the graveyard too. Although I don't know what raccoon that would care about graveyard stuff. But yeah, card's great. It does do what you expect. Teapot Slinger. 4 mana for a 3/4 menace. Whenever you expend 4, they take 2. Good limited card. Body's fine. Deals some damage. Honestly, a little smaller than I would like, but reasonable limited card. Valley Flamecaller. 2 mana for a 3/3. Rare Lizard Warlock. If a lizard, mouse, otter, or raccoon you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals that much damage +1. So, all those mice tokens, they're now 2 power. The lizard that pings, now it's for 2. That's pretty good. This is a really solid lizard curve topper. Is it better than just the other more generically good cards? That I'm not sure. But this effect is pretty powerful. And also kind of cool. You could see it possibly see play in the mouse decks too, like as like a token kind of finisher. Card's good. Phenomenal limited card. Powerful constructed card. Pretty good stuff. Valley Rally. The mana for an instant. You may gift a food if you want to. Creatures you control get +2/+7 on a turn. If the gift was promised, a creature you control gains first strike. So, pretty easy gift to give, a food. I think it's the easiest of all the gifts. This is also a Valiant trigger, a Pump the Squad trigger. Great limited card. If you're going wide, this is the card you want. Because not only will you go wide and do a lot of damage, but you'll also win a combat too, which is one of the things that these cards cannot typically not do. So great limited card. Probably not there constructed, but yeah. War Squeak. 1 mana enchantment aura. Enchant creature. When War Squeak enters, target creature and opponent controls can't block this turn. +1 in haste. This is just Hammerhand, which is an old card that saw play in mono red decks. With the Valiant mechanic being a big deal, this card can definitely see play. Definitely see play possibly in like a mono red or Valiant Boros deck or something like that. That being said, power creep wise, it is a little more to take in. It's a pretty big standard for it also. But yeah. So yeah, and then limited this card's pretty good too. The more Valiant you have, the better. Apparently Hammerhand's in standard. I did not realize that. That makes this card less likely to see play. But again, the Valiant stuff is pretty good. Whiskerwill Scribe. To mana for a creature mouse citizen. Valiant. Whenever it's targeted, first time, you may discard a card if you draw a card. Limited filler. Nothing more. Wildfire Howl. Red 1 for a cool art sorcery. You may gift a card to your opponent. Deals 2 damage to each creature. If the gift was promised, it deals 1 additional damage to any target and 2 damage to each creature. Very weird. As a card worth literally 1 damage. I mean, if they have a 3/3 and all 2/2, sure. But kind of a weird card, honestly. Weird power class. I'm kind of hard to cast. Giving your opponents a card is pretty rough. This seems like just like a fringe playable power class and not much more. So to recap, red, best in show. Sunspine Links. Our sleeper card, Hired Claw. It's a banger. There are a lot of good red cards too. That other mouse, not Manifold Mouse, the other one. Ember Heart Challenger, also really good too. Then we got Dragonhawk as the trap card. And Alania's Pathmaker as our Bombin Common. Red's all done, folks. Don't forget, 10 new brews. Next Wednesday, live on Twitch, then on YouTube. Bronze to Mythic to follow on that Tuesday. Hope I'll see you there on all of those. Like, comment, subscribe. Green is coming up. Don't go nowhere.